I'm not arguing that racism doesn't exist. I'm saying that a lot of our actual outcomes that we experience aren't due to racism. A lot of the things we experience are due to not having any value. We're not having value, and by not having value, we're disposed of like trash. Like, for instance, right? This right here, this is just a piece of paper to me. So guess what? Boom. It doesn't matter. It's not because I don't like paper. That particular paper has no value. Now, if that was $100, I wouldn't throw it because it's $100. I'm not that I don't like paper. I just don't like invaluable things that have no value. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Unbreakable Grind. It's your guy CJ back with another video. In this video, I want to hit on something that's very important that I've been able to observe from my perspective, and I believe I can offer a lot of insight in the space. Okay, I want to talk about racial suppression in America. Okay, racism and racial suppression in America. Okay, I want you guys to understand where I'm coming from with this, and the whole goal of this is to offer a new viewpoint to certain people. Right? You'll be surprised how many people are suppressed by their race, or feel suppressed by being a certain race in our country. All right, so you got to understand that this is a real problem. Okay, I've talked, I have family members that feel this suppression. They talk about it on a day-to-day basis. All right, so first I want to offer my fresh perspective. Okay, I was a young dude, basic upbringing, right? Nothing special. I wasn't born with a silver spoon. I knew I had to work to get things out of life. I knew I didn't have like a crazy inheritance or anything to work with. All right, normal person. Now, as I went through life, I made certain decisions. Okay, I at least had the guidance to know that, okay, if I want something out of life, I have to do the work, and these are the things that I could do. All right, so I knew that I could go into certain spaces and I could achieve in certain spaces. So I at least knew that. Some people didn't get that information, but I at least knew that. All right, so as I went through life, right, let's call it 18. Let's say I'm 18 years old. I noticed that there are many trajectories that many people took, right? Many people that I was around, my friends, my cousins, right? Some of those took a trajectory to say, you know what? I don't want to necessarily go to college. I want to go out here and I want to rap. Okay, that's a group of people. Some people went out here and said, you know what? I want to get a trade. They went this way. All right. You got some people that genuinely didn't know what they wanted to do. They just wanted to have fun. They went that way, right? Me, I said, you know what? I want to actually take the path of an intellectual path and actually have abundance. I knew that because I actually had a couple of examples to leech off of. And by having those examples, I was able to choose that trajectory. But the whole point I want to make is I started to notice something very interesting when it came to race and racial suppression in America as I watched all of our trajectories unfold. Okay, it's a big deal. So if I fast forward through all of our timelines, I noticed that people who chose certain paths actually complained about racism more, right? So I never really thought much of it. I thought that maybe I'm just different and I just don't care about race and all that stuff. But I noticed that certain paths led to people complaining about race more. This had me kind of confused. I'm like, man, why are they always talking about racial suppression and people don't want them to do this and people don't want them to do that? All right, so let's fast forward to me getting my first engineering job. I was getting my first engineering job, and mind you, I've heard these stories about racial suppression. I'm hearing it as I go through engineering school 4 or 5 years, right? So as I hear that, that's embedded in my head because I'm going out into the world now trying to get my first opportunity. All right, so when I'm going in the back of my head, I'm thinking about racial suppression, and I'm in this room, and I'm like, man, I'm interviewing for the job, and I'm around mostly Caucasian people. Okay, I'm like, oh my God, I'm a black dude, and I'm probably gonna be racially suppressed right now, and that's how I felt. Just because that's where I came from. Those are the narratives I heard, and I was also hearing my peers talk about the racial suppression that they felt. Mind you, I never even felt the racial suppression while I was in school either. But long story short, I felt in that room, it all came at one time. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get racially suppressed. I went through and I just did me. I said, you know what? I'm just going to ignore that. I'm just going to do what I know, do what I studied, and I'm just going to go for it. I went for it. I got the opportunity. It was nothing. I never felt like people looked at me as if I was black. I never felt racially suppressed. So that was weird. So then as I went into the opportunity, I started to notice that when I collaborated with people, They didn't treat me less. Like people, no matter what race I was interacting with, no one treated me less. Like, I couldn't identify no discrimination. Now I'm getting somewhere with this. I'm like, why can't I see discrimination? But I still could see when I would talk to my peers, remember those peers I started with, my cousins or my friends, they would be complaining about, man, I was on the job and this, this colored person said that and that colored person said this and they said this because I'm black and this, right? So I then started to realize, man, why in the world can I not relate to these stories? And something significant clicked in my mind. I started to understand something very significant. It all came together when I was in one of my most high paying opportunities that I got at a young age. Okay. I was working with a company as a contractor. Okay. I was getting paid more money than I ever thought I would make at that time. More money than anyone in my family that I knew of was ever getting paid ever. Okay. So it was insane. All right. But I had some Caucasian people working under me. So this is the mind-blowing piece, is I'm like, how in the world are Caucasian people working under me? How do I have a white person under me if everything's completely racist? That's the thought that went through my head. And mind you, I'm still hearing narratives when I go home or when I go around family that the world is racist, America is racist. So I'm in an interesting spot, guys. I'm going somewhere with this. But this is very, very important that you understand my perspective. And I'm also going to wrap it up with how you can actually apply these things to your life to have a better outcome. All right. All right, guys, I talk fast, so I had to drink some water. Yeah. So I had Caucasian people working under me in this opportunity. This blew me away. Now, another thing I started to notice is I would notice other white or Caucasian people. Now, I have to talk race, okay? It just is what it is because I want to depict the image. They would mistreat some of the other white or Caucasian people under me before they would mistreat me. If I didn't know any better, I would almost think that I was white based upon what I was primed to think or primed to understand from my peers. Okay, they're going to be racist. They're going to segregate by color and yada, yada. So I would think that, okay, I'm an African American. They're going to be grouped against me. But what I found out is the grouping didn't even happen by race. No one cared about the race. Actually, a Caucasian person who actually ranked lower was getting treatment as if they were seemingly African American, I guess you could say. They got treatment that African Americans is primed to expect. And this became this was a super insightful moment for me. It was super insightful. Now, let's take it off me for a second so I can go through a couple of scenarios to make a point. All right. Let's talk about the first NFL player that ever got to the league. All right. I really want you guys to think about this, right? Do you think a day came they were like, hey, we should just have inclusion in the National Football League? Let's just include everyone. Let's get every race involved. Nah, what really happened is you had people who are so skilled. They had such a natural gift, athletic gift, that it became stupid. If you want to be competitive, and why would you not include a population of people who are immensely athletic, are extremely athletic? So what happened with the inclusion into the NFL, and this happened with music, this happened with all types of industries, is that what happened is expertise, skills, value overcomes racism. Racism only comes into play when there's nothing of value actually being interacted with. When you're not in an arena of value, then racism, right? If all things are equal, then people can say, okay, you're this color, you're that color. But in real life, when you're actually in an arena of value, race plays almost no role, almost at all. So even if you go back to the early 1900s, when you talk about the National Football League, I think it was 1920, the first NFL football player was included because he was so freaking dominant in the sport that it was like, oh, I have a supreme advantage if I actually take on an African American. This team was so good that it rippled through the league. It's like, oh my God, I can't let you just beat me. This guy's clearly winning. This guy's clearly athletic. And what happened is this rippled through the whole NFL. All right, now let me go to another example, because This happened with music. This happened with entertainment, yada, yada, yada. So I want you guys to understand that even though we were in some of the most racist years of our time as a country, it did not stop that black person from getting that football opportunity. Let me go to one of my favorite cases right here. All right. Let me go to one of my favorite cases. Mary Jackson. Let me put this on screen. Miss Mary Jackson, the first aeronautical engineer at NASA, inducted in 1951. Look at her. A genius of a lady, a beautiful black lady, an aeronautical engineer at NASA. Do you think they said, hey, let's just accept black people, let's just take them in? Yeah, let's just start not being racist today. Do you think that people in that office weren't racist? Right there, I'm not arguing that racism doesn't exist. I'm saying that a lot of our actual outcomes that we experience aren't due to racism. A lot of the things we experience are due to not having any value. We're not having value, and by not having value, we're disposed of like trash. Like, for instance, right? This right here, this is just a piece of paper to me. So guess what? Boom. It doesn't matter. It's not because I don't like paper. That particular paper has no value. Now, if that was $100, yeah, I wouldn't throw it because it's $100. I'm not that I don't like paper. I just don't like invaluable things that have no value, right? This lady had value. NASA's trying to figure out how to get people to the moon, trying to figure out how to launch satellites into space. This lady's intelligence could not be ignored because of her color. If she had value that she could contribute to NASA. And if you have value to contribute, no one cares about your color. This is extremely important. Do not let anyone convince you that your color is stopping you from anything. If you're being stopped, it's because your value. Understand me. Let me say this again. Your color, I don't care what color you are, it's not stopping you. It's your value. The first aeronautical, it's not even black people, right? It's not only black people. The first aeronautical astronaut at NASA, 1950, Chang Diaz. You think they said, hey, let's just take in a freaking Hispanic person? No, he was intelligent. He was more equipped than other contestants. They wanted to have a successful mission. They took on Chang Diaz because he was the most prepared. When you're in an arena of value, people don't care about race. They care about success. They care about outcomes. You have to understand this. My favorite entrepreneur, Robert Smith, a freaking billionaire. During some of the racist times of our country, the racist years of our country's existence, became a billionaire. There's a story where Reginald Lewis. Reginald Lewis. There's a story where Reginald Lewis walked into a financial institution trying to get loans to transact or to close a deal to make one of the largest deals ever, not only for African Americans, but ever. This man was looked down upon when he first walked in due to his color. Just like, if I look at this, right? If this mask, someone gives me this mask, I'm going to look down on it. Man, what am I going to do with this? And I just throw it. But they say, no, that's $100,000. That's $100,000 piece of paper. That mask is $100,000. I'd be like, oh, let me pick that back up. That's what they did with that's what they did with Reginald Lewis. They kicked him out the door and said, what is a black man doing in here with this? How are you going to close a $500 million deal? Man, get out of here. But what happened is he kept coming. And guess what? There's narrative that Reginald Lewis knew more about the company that he wanted to acquire than the company itself. He knew more about the company he wanted to acquire than the CEO of that company at that time. It was a failing business. He knew more about their internal workings than the actual CEO knew about the company's workings. He broke these things down to the private investors, and they had to listen to him. They said, I've never seen someone so prepared. They had never given out a loan to anyone who was so knowledgeable. They didn't say any black person. They said they never supported a person who was so knowledgeable, ever. They didn't care. They said, you know what? This guy's going to make us so much money. This guy isn't a piece of paper. This guy's a whole $100 bill. This guy has value. F his color. Everyone about to get paid with this guy. racism goes completely out of the door. It's gone. Of course, when he walks down the street, you have some random person being racist to him. That doesn't matter. You can't eliminate that 100%. So don't let your life be judged by minuscule judgments outside of arenas of value. When it comes to where you are in your life and getting far and being successful, you have to make yourself valuable. In America, you just have to be valuable, and your race is diminished. It does not matter. Your gender is diminished. It just doesn't matter. Your sexual orientation does not matter. It just doesn't in the arena of value. You think they're gonna say? Just let's be honest. Let's take a heterosexual person, a transgender person, right? If they offer value, if I have a business, and my business needs intelligent people to succeed, and those people are scarce because it's just a limited pool of people who actually do the work to become valuable. And I find a person and they say, hey, I'm homosexual and I'm transgender. You think I'm going to say, oh no, I'm just going to let my business fail because you're transgender? No, I wouldn't care at all. It would not matter. I would not care 0 cents. I have no care. It doesn't matter. I don't care about your color. I don't even care if you're a human being. If you're a freaking giraffe and you can do the work, then I want to hire you. That's what you have to understand. If a freaking giraffe had the ability to bring value to the marketplace, then the marketplace will be hiring giraffes. It's that simple. So the discrimination is not there. Well, let me put it this way. The discrimination is there, but it's not racial discrimination. It's a discrimination upon value. If you bring value, you will be accepted. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You can't get away from racism as a whole, just like you can't get away from any discrimination as a whole. There's some people that won't like my long hair just because it's long. There's some people that won't like my short hair if I cut it just because it's short. You can't get around that. And nor do you even need to entertain that. That's a waste of time. What you want to do is be successful. You want to make money. You want to make money for your lineage. You want your bloodline to have freaking abundance of wealth. And you have the opportunity to do that. But you have to understand that if you're having bad outcomes, it's only your value. You're getting thrown out the door. Look at this. This means nothing. You're getting thrown out the freaking door because no value. No one's looking at it saying, hey, look at the color of it and throwing you out the door. They're saying there's no value because that same piece of paper could be $100 bill and I wouldn't throw it out the door. And it's paper also. It's because it has value. So understand that. Please pay attention to this. There are a lot of people suffering and stuck and paralyzed because they think that race is suppressing them, and it's not. We've been tricked to feel suppressed, and we're not seeking ways to make ourselves more valuable to the marketplace. What you'll find out is this is a great country to actually prosper in. No matter what race you are, no matter where you come, no matter what your sexual orientation is, you can make it to the very pivot top of this freaking place if you do the hard work, which most people don't want to do. So I motivate you all, and I want you all to pursue value, do the hard work, get out here and make a difference. All right. If you like this content, hit the like button, man. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see other videos. Hit that notification if you want to see those immediately. I promise to keep the heat coming, guys. Peace, guys.